Good evening, everyone. Today is our 52nd sort of discussion regarding the Samyutta Nikaya, and in our series, today we're going to be looking at a sutta called Piya Sutta, and the topic is going to be who are those that allow and do not allow themselves according to the Piya Sutta. And this comes in Samyutta Nikaya, Kosala Samyutta, the fourth sutta. Let's take a look at the sutta, and we'll take a look at the background story of how things happen. And in the Kosala Samyutta, what happens is that King Kosala approaches the Buddha and then asks different questions at different times. So this sutta is about oneself and who really loves oneself, and it's about oneself and who really loves oneself. And we're gonna find out a very interesting definition about self-love, because Buddha talks about the self-love in a very interesting way. Let's take a look at this Pali reading. At Savatthi, seated to one side, King Pasenadi said to the Buddha, "Just now, sir, as I was in private retreat." I don't think King was having a private retreat, but most likely King was having a leisure time. But anyways, the translation goes as a private retreat. Anyway, this thought came to his mind, King Pasenadi's mind. Who are those who love themselves, and who are those who do not love themselves? So, King got a thought about who really love themselves and who really don't love themselves. So those were the two thoughts that came to his mind. And the Pali goes this way: Ida maihang bhante raho gatassa patisallīnassa. That means, in my leisure time, evaṁ chetaso parivitakko udapādi. And this particular thought came to my mind. The thought was, Kesang nukho piyo atta, kesang appyo attati. Who are those who love themselves, and who are those who do not love themselves? Tasamai, now, not even King came up with this thought, but also he came up with the answer. We get to see how Buddha was approving his answer as well as the question. Tasamaihang bhante etada hosi. Yechako kechi kayena duccharitang charanti. Vachaya duccharitang charanti. Manasa duccharitang charanti. Tesang appyo atta. Kinchapi te evam badeyo. Pyo no attati ti atako tesang appyo atta. Tankisa hetu yanghi appyo appyasa kareya. Tangte attanava attano karonti. Tasma tesang appyo atta. Now, King finds out the main reason why and how someone doesn't love oneself in the real sense. The reason is this. Now, the question was, the two thoughts that came to King's mind were these: who are those who love themselves, and who are those who do not love themselves? Then it occurred to the king, those who do bad things by way of body, speech, and mind do not love themselves. It's a pretty interesting statement. So, self-love starts from oneself, the way one executes actions, thoughts, and words. So, if someone involves in akusalas, I would say, unwholesome active actions, unwholesome speech, unwholesome thoughts, that's how that person does not love oneself. So if someone really loves oneself, one would not do those things. One would not execute unwholesome actions, thoughts, and speech. And then, even though they may say, I love myself, they don't really. So, I mean, even though they themselves, uh, feel deep down inside that they love themselves, but it's not, because they're executing unwholesome actions, unwholesome speech, unwholesome activities, actions. So, I mean, even though they are saying to other people, maybe they are saying to themselves that they are okay, they are loving themselves, but they are not really loving themselves because they are executing unwholesome actions, speech, and thoughts. Why is that? It's because they treat themselves like an enemy. That's why they don't love themselves. So, if someone does not involve in wholesome actions, wholesome thoughts, and wholesome actions, the king Kosala thinks, that is how one becomes an enemy to oneself. Now, we know in our normal society, in our normal life, people might think people who are not in agreement with them, they could be enemies. I mean, they are pretty external, outside people. But according to this explanation, the king Kosala says, no, enemy is not from outside. Enemy is from inside, the way how you execute your actions, speech, and thoughts. So it's pretty interesting to think about. So you are making your enemy. That's what it means. So if you are always executing, making good karma, I would say, by ways of actions, thoughts, and speech, you are making yourself a friend. Otherwise, you are making yourself an enemy. And then, yechako kechi kayena sucharitang charanti, vachaya sucharitang charanti, manasa sucharitang charanti, tesang piyo atta, kinchapi te evang vadeyun, appiyo no attati atako tesang piyo atta, tankisa hetu, yanghi piyo piyassa kare, tangte attanava attano karanti, tasma tesang piyo atta. Eva me tang mahara. Okay. That's what Buddha says at the end. Eva me tang. And then king explains why someone can be a friend to oneself and how one can be an enemy on the other side. So one can be an enemy to oneself by doing bad actions and speaking bad words and thinking bad thoughts. One can become oneself a friend by ways of executing the opposite, wholesome actions, wholesome thoughts, and wholesome words. And then what happens, and Buddha was listening to these two thoughts that initially came up in the mind of King Kosala, and then his explanation about how he thinks about self-friend, self-enemy. And then Buddha says, Eva metang Maharaja, Eva metang Maharaja. Oh, he's approving. That's so true, great king. That's so true, said the Buddha. And he repeated the king's statement. He repeated the same statement, what king said about how one can become an enemy to oneself, how one can become a friend to oneself. So, I mean, it's pretty interesting. I think in a society where we think about different enemies and friends, I think this friend definition and enemy definition start from oneself. Let's talk about that at the end of this talk, because we have to talk about some stanzas in Buddha's explanation. And Buddha was explaining his own thoughts, adding to those that approval to the king. Attanang che piyang janya natang papena sangyuje nahitang sulabhang hoti sukhang dukkhata karina. The meaning, if you regard yourself as loved, you wouldn't yoke yourself to wickedness. What does it mean? It means if you really think if you really regard yourself as, if you really think you are really loving yourself, you never execute unwholesome actions, speech, and thoughts. Nahi tang sulabhang hoti sukhang dukkhata karana. For happiness is not easy to find by someone who does bad deeds. So if someone involves in unwholesome actions, speech and thoughts, happiness is far away. Is really really far for such individuals. Antakenadi pannassa jahato manusang bhavang kinhi tassa sakang hoti kincha adaya gacchati kinchassa anugang hoti chayava anapaya. So he explains furthermore, the Buddha explains furthermore how this enemy and friend thing happens with wholesome and unwholesome activities. When you are seized by the Mara, and we know Mara is fivefold. I think we talked about the Mara and different kind of Maras, 5 Maras in one of the previous discussions. And this Mara is about the conventional death. And we know that one day we will die, and because we had a birth and we are growing, aging, and there is the death that is imminent to all of us. When you cease by the Mara one day, you have to keep in mind, Mara is still in debate about as to a person or a concept. But anyways, Mara is the conventional death at this point. When you are seized or taken by the Mara, as you give up your human life, so we all are humans at this point. So one day when we die, we understand that it is a place where Mara is taking our life. What can you call your own? Because it's true, because when you die, you can't call anything about this body, right? So it's just leaving this whole physical body, and we are living with our own good karma and bad karma. What do you take when you go? What goes with you? Like a shadow that never leaves. So we're all trying to attain any kind of spiritual stages, starting from Sotapanna in the noble path. But we never know when we're gonna make that happen. So to that extent, we need some good karma. So we need to bring good karma until we, tap into that one of the stages. So we need good karma. So the question Buddha was raising, what do you take when you go? Because Mara is taking your life one day. Because if you accumulate good karma, those good karma gonna be like a shadow that never leaves you, and it is following you. Ubho punyancha papancha yang macho kurute idha tanghi tassa sakang hoti tancha adaya gacchati. Now I think one of the key things I understand in the Buddhist teachings is responsibility. Responsibility starts from the karma concept. Now we usually talk about responsibility at different levels in the society. Buddha says that responsibility comes with your karma, because if you speak intentionally, if you do any action intentionally, if you think intentionally, then you are making karma at all times. So you are responsible for experiencing the repercussions or outcomes of those karma. So the responsibility concept is there. So Buddha says both the good and the bad that a human or being does in this life is what they can call their own. So we know that we have this concept of not self, but until we attain the Nibbana, we should have some good karma, because if you are reborn in a woeful state, kind of a uncomfortable life, and you won't be able to practice Dhamma, because you would have a lot of problems, like normal day-to-day issues like needs, and that's why we need to have accumulated good karma until we attain Nibbana. Tang chassa anugang hoti chayavan pine. That's what they take when they go, that's what goes with them, like a shadow that never leaves. So once again, Buddha reiterates, we need karma, because good karma are like a shadow that never leaves us. Tasma kareya kalyanam nichayang samparayakam punyani paralokasming patitta hunti parinante. That's why we should do good, wholesome karma, investing in the future life, the good deeds of sentient being, support them in the next world. We have to have a balance though. I mean, when we are doing good karma, we have to have a balance. Sometimes we don't know the balance, so we are greedily doing good karma. So we have to find the balance between, attaining nibbana at the same time accumulating good karma. So we are not, becoming greedy about our good karma. Because our purpose is to attain nibbana with the good karma, not just continue just with the good karma, only in that direction. So, the good deeds of sentient beings, support them in the next world, definitely. I mean, those good karma, they are following us all the time. Okay, so the most interesting thing is not just about the good karma. The most interesting thing is this new definition about enemy and friend. So who can really love themselves, who cannot love themselves? That's a really good concept. So self-love has been redefined in this sutta. In order to understand this whole idea of this self-love and who is really a friend to oneself, who is really an enemy to oneself, I would like to go on to another different Dhamma teaching at this point. So I quote this from Dhammapada. In Dhammapada, we find out there are 26 chapters. There's a chapter about the unwise people. This stanza comes in that chapter on unwise people. Charanti bala dummedha amitteneva attana karunta papakang kammang yang hoti katukappalam. The meaning, fools with no sense go about as their own enemies, doing evil deeds that bear bitter fruit. Now, I would like to quote this thing. They are going about as their own enemies. So, Buddha says all the time, if someone is carrying unwholesome actions, unwholesome speech, unwholesome thoughts, that means they are becoming an enemy to themselves. So the opposite is, if someone is doing good karma, I would say wholesome actions, wholesome speech, wholesome thought, they are making themselves a friend. So this is the most interesting thing to learn from this sutta. But I would like to recap the whole sutta in couple headings, a couple points, so that one may better understand it. We know in this sutta, Buddha talks about love. In normal life, to many people, love seems to be a very, how can I say, it's kind of a greedy thing, right? I would say transactional thing, right? But Buddha says the real, especially the real self-love. This is not about the love to other people. This is about the self-love, because we all need self-love. When you don't think that you are spreading self-love enough towards yourself, you feel like you may come up with suicidal thoughts, and it's really bad. That's why Buddha asks us to spread self-love. Find out the real self-worth about you. You don't need to all the time go to societal norms, but try to find out you became a human, and what you already have, and try to spread metta, loving kindness towards yourself. That's a good beginning. So in the discussion of this self-love, I would like to say one of the very important things in this sutta is we find out a new definition about enemy. Now we know enemies are always outsiders, but here we are making ourselves an enemy. by executing unwholesome actions, speech, and words. So enemy looks like already within. So that's a good thing to think about. And also, the real friend is not outside, it's you. The way how you handle yourself and how you execute wholesome actions, thoughts, and words, speech. So you can become the best friend to you. That is only by executing wholesome actions, thoughts, and speech. So, those two points are really interesting because this sutta brings about a novel, a new interpretation about how to find out the real friend within you, how to find out the real enemy within you. If you are not fulfilling, if you are not involved in wholesome actions, thoughts, speech, and words, that means you are making yourself an enemy. That means you are not loving yourself. And if you are always trying to make yourself into wholesome actions, we would say kusala karmas, actions, and speeches, wholesome speeches, and then wholesome thoughts, then you are making yourself the best friend. So I think these are the main things in this sutta. Buddha approved without any issue what the king said. So look, it seems to us, it's pretty clear that Buddha didn't talk about anything in special, but he just approved what the king said. What king said was true. That's why he approved that. And at the end, he was trying to add different other related contextual teachings about the kusala and akusala, and why people need kusala and why people need to go away from akusala. And it starts from this who really loves oneself, who really don't love oneself. And the people who really love oneself, they become so by executing good actions, words, and speech. And the opposite is the unwholesome. They're becoming enemy to themselves. And then Buddha was discussing what this good means, at the same time what this bad means at the end of the sutta. I hope you learned something. Thank you so much. And we will share good karmas with the departed relatives and the deities. So let's share all the good karmas with the departed relatives who passed away in the name of all of us. May all the good karmas be shared by all the departed relatives who passed away in the name of all of us. May they be happy and peaceful. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñāteyo. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñāteyo. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñāteyo. May all the good karmas be shared by all the deities who protect and bless all of us. May they especially bless the beings in the universe, in the world now, and because people are scared, very anxious about the situation across the globe now. May the deities give enough strength and protection, safety for all the individuals in this world, regardless of countries, everywhere. May they be protected. May the deities also be happy and peaceful. May they also attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ittavata cha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabbe sattva anumodantu sabbasang patti siddhya akasattha cha bummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu lokasasanang chirang rakkantu desanang chirang rakkantu mang paranti. Finally, what we usually do is that we make a great wish. May all the good karmas that we've been accumulating so far help all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Abhivadana silissa nichang vantha pachayinu chattaru dhamma vadhanti ayuvannu sukhang balang ayurarokya sampatti sangha sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti Iminate samiccetu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, have a good night.